Let's talk about brain body connection, essentially, how the brain talks to the hand and the hand talks to the brain. And that's incredibly important to understand because that connection is interrupted when you have a stroke. And that's the connection that you have to get stronger to get your hand working. So let's pretend that this is your brain and this is a spinal cord that goes out to a hand. This is my hand. So something happens out here in your environment. The dog is soft. The ice is cold. The stove is hot. A signal, a feeling signal gets shot through the arm, up the spinal cord, to the brain, and then the brain sends a response back to do something. So let's say I touch the stove and I feel it's warm. My brain says, pull your hand away. Or I feel that the dog is soft, I pet the dog. Or I feel that the ice is cold, maybe I drop the ice. So your brain is in constant communication with your hand and vice versa. If you're feeling something or doing something and doing something, you feel something. So now that we talked about the feel, do, feel signals, you feel something, you do something, you do something, you feel something. Let's talk about what happens after you've had a stroke. So when you've had a stroke, these signals start to get fuzzy, especially the signal coming down. So let's say you feel something in your environment, okay? And maybe the signal isn't as strong, but you feel something. The signal coming down isn't as strong. So now your brain is trying to say it feels the dog is soft, it feels the ice is cold, it feels that the stove is warm. But when your brain says, okay, now move your hand, it's not doing anything or it's doing very little. So that's what happens after you've had a stroke. But now, what do you do to get that signal strong again? All right, so how do we get those signals firing again after a stroke? Essentially, the key is if you can remind the hand and the arm what it's supposed to feel, it reminds that circuit or that signal what it's supposed to be doing. So the key here is the more input you give, the more output you're going to get. So the more input up, the stronger the output down. The more input, the more output. The more input, the more output. So anything you can get that arm to feel warm, cold, movement, electrical stimulation, weight, prolonged weight. We will go over all of this in this next piece. But essentially, remember the more input, the more output. And then one more thing, you have to do things 1,000 times to get that signal to fire again. So you may have to do things over and over and over, but you cannot get tired of doing that because every little thing you do to that arm to make it feel something, every time you put weight in that hand, every time you remind the brain of that feel or do or feel circuit or signal, you're getting that much closer to getting the arm to move again.